I get that I'm totally going out on a limb here, but I'm finally going to muster up the courage to say John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. Like, he just simply wasn't. And I derived that after watching a couple of weeks of the prosecutor failing to prove that. And then just the last couple of days with the defense witnesses coming in and saying, no dice, this did not happen. 3 of the expert witnesses that were called by the defense were there to specifically dispute Trooper Paul's accounting of the accident, where he says that really the car just hit the arm, that they hit the glass, that the glass shattered the taillight, and then as Karen continued to come back, she kind of dragged John's arm this way, and that would have caused the abrasions on the arm, blah, blah, blah. He was spun around, he flipped upside down, he hit his head on the curb. He had a very difficult time explaining how John's body would end up 20 feet into the yard with the cell phone underneath it. Because I would think at any point that you were to throw the glass or to throw the cell phone, or you were to go like this to protect yourself, the items in both hands would fly. But hey, I am not an expert, and the 3 doctors that were called today were. Now, first, you have this cutie patootie, Dr. Daniel Wolf from ARCA. Yep. He was enjoyable to watch. I felt like the last 2 weeks has been nothing but a sea of ignorant, bald guys. This adorable, brilliant hottie up there was a breath of fresh air. He said unequivocally that the Lexus did not make contact, that they ran every test. The Lexus did not make contact with John. And he can tell it by how the damage to the car, not just the taillight, but there would have been damage between the taillight and the lift gate section of the car. So there's a gap in there that would have been damaged as well. Based on Trooper Paul's story, that did not occur. He and Dr. Rentschler also did some studies where they fired a drinking glass at a taillight to just see how fast the projectile would have to go in order to shatter the taillight. It was 37 miles per hour. So what they came up with was maybe John threw the glass and that's what broke the taillight. Maybe, because there were shards of glass and shards of taillight on the ground found near each other. So their best guess is that John got pissed and threw the drinking glass at the car and broke the taillight. When asked if a car hit just the arm, right? So as the car hits just the arm, would that be enough to project the body 20 feet in another direction? And his quote was, "There wouldn't be any projection." John O'Keefe weighed over 200 pounds, and he explained that his body, the bulk of his body, was essentially held down by gravity. So in order for it to fly in the air, there would have had to have been a center of mass impact in order to cause the body to fly. So if they hit the arm, just the arm goes back like this, and maybe there's some scratches or bruising or something on the arm, but the rest of the body stays still, and then, or maybe just even spins a little bit, but it doesn't fly away. Dr. Frank Sheridan said that there's just no way that the injuries on John's body are consistent with a vehicle incident. There would have been significant bruising. There would have been additional abrasions. There would have been front, side, or back damage somewhere, because you're not just going to isolate the arm. It's going to probably hit something else, or even just the impact of him hitting the ground, right? If you've been hit hard enough that it's going to throw you, you hitting the ground would have some bruising as well. When he looked at the linear abrasions on John's arm, he said, quote, "That does not look to me at all remotely like an impact from a motor vehicle," which is basically the same thing that Dr. Rentschler said when he got up there. Even if they just hit the arm, there would be extensive damage to the arm, extensive subcutaneous lacerations, bruising, contusions, maybe even a fracture of the arm. I gotta wonder if maybe too, there wouldn't be some injury to the shoulder. If his sleeve was caught on the tail light and he was kind of dragged a little bit, I would think, wouldn't there be tendons, or maybe an arm, like a shoulder pulled out of socket? He weighed 200 pounds. So you're putting all of that, the force of a moving vehicle and then the force of the standing still 200-pound body on this arm. It just feels to me like there'd be shoulder damage too. Now, the trial aside, there's also a new episode of the 13th Juror podcast, which I've been listening to. She was reminding us again about that taillight. When the car was at Karen's parents' house in Dighton, a Dighton police officer by the name of Barros went to the house as a courtesy, right? They called him, he shows up. He's the one that calls the tow truck. He's the one that calls the snowplow. He's the one that calls everybody to make all the arrangements to take the car in. he notices that the taillight is cracked and is missing a small piece, but it is not even close to being fully damaged like Proctor said it was. Now, what she said on the podcast, God love Brandy Churchwell, she really digs into this. She had said that what Barrows said exactly matched everything that Carrie Roberts said about the taillight. There's an 8:22 a.m. dash cam video. There is video from the Reed's house, so her parents' house, as the car is being loaded up onto the tow truck and driven away. And then there's that video of Karen leaving John's house that morning that doesn't show extensive damage. So all of those things corroborate with each other. And really, the only difference is Proctor's description, right? This is the only place it varies. Proctor's description and photos taken once the car was inside the Sally port. I'm telling you, John was not hit by a car. And I don't know what happens next. I think that Jackson has done a hell of a job with these defense witnesses. Lolly's going to get to call rebuttal witnesses. I don't know who he's going to call. I said this in my last video, that all of these people from ARCA and the ARCA guys that were hired by FBI and DOJ, they put together 3,000 pages of documents of all of their findings, and they provided it to both the defense and the prosecution. So Lolly could have talked to any of these guys at any time, but he didn't. Instead, they sent Trooper Paul to a 3-week training course and decided he could be the witness, and they were going to ignore the 3,000 pages of documents provided to them by the DOJ and the FBI and the cutie patootie Dr. Wolf over at ARCA. I'm not sure who Lolly can call as a rebuttal, because I'm not sure he can find anybody that can overcome the testimony of these three. It was just brilliant. And in my opinion, it's over. I know there's still people that believe she did it, but I think the prosecution failed to make their case, and there is plenty of reasonable doubt.